Okay, if you're here, you probably know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, this video has spoilers for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, so if you have not seen that movie and plan to and don't want to be spoiled, this one probably is not for you. Mute the video, put it on in the background. Gotta get those views, baby. Also, like and subscribe and watch my bonus videos on Nebula. Okay, so spoilers after this. 3, 2, 1. The first character I covered in my MCU casting videos has been cast, and it is him, John Krasinski as Reed Richards. So, since the Wolverine video ran into a hiccup, don't worry, it's coming, I wanted to take this time to talk about my thoughts on Mr. Fantastizinski. Terrible portmanteau, I'm sorry. I'm going to answer one question in this video. Having seen Multiverse of Madness, do I still believe John Krasinski is not a very good choice to portray Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And right off the bat, I don't think John Krasinski is a bad person. I liked The Office. I liked A Quiet Place. I liked Leatherheads? I don't know, those first two things. I watched an episode of Jack Ryan to show that it is 100% not for me, but you know, he's pretty good in it. He seems nice, I guess. He had that nice news show that he sold or whatever, where he took news stories that other people found and showed them to us. He thinks protesters and police should hug. I don't know, listen, Some More News has a great video on John Krasinski's whole deal, so go watch that. I'm not gonna dwell on it. Regardless of how I feel about the guy, he isn't like a criminal, so if John Krasinski is good for the part, he should play it. And we saw him do it for like less than a minute, but it's still a very telling minute. And honestly, I didn't hate him. The scenes have kind of grown on me. Yes, he's not the best part of that scene, obviously. That is Anson Mount's Black Bolt. I mean, goddamn, talk about redemption. That costume alone is a work of genius. I know we criticize the MCU a lot for, you know, over designing the costumes. Everybody needs lots of vertical lines and then they lead to diagonal lines. It's, you know, it's a little extra, whatever. But for the most part, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has not made a downright bad costume. If you don't count the original Inhumans show, which was downright bad. They've all been pretty good, and they're getting way better as they get more colorful. We don't really talk about it enough, but guys like Ryan Meinerding and Andy Parker doing the Lord's work. Anyway, I think Reed worked in this scene for 3 reasons. Number 1, Wanda turned him into spaghetti. Love it. Number 2, he was serious. That may be one of the most important Mr. Fantastic character traits. He's not a quipster. He sees a problem, tries to solve it. He may have grossly underestimated the problem in this case, but that's in line with how he usually works. But third, Reed was warm. When Wanda faced off against the Illuminati, Reed appealed to her humanity. As a father, he understood her pain, and he related to Wanda in that moment. This is a Reed who's been through a lot, presumably. He has a son and a daughter, which means this Reed has grown as a character. There are probably like 5 Fantastic Four movies in this universe that we have not seen, where he has made mistakes and learned lessons. And in general, I love how this universe felt lived in. These characters had a history. That works. So I was on board with the relatable Mr. Fantastic. However, I still do not think John Krasinski should be the main Mr. Fantastic in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'll explain. Because I got more than a few comments on my Fancasting the Fantastic Four video saying that people disagreed with me. And listen, if you agree or disagree, I love it. Comment, it helps engagement. But they liked John Krasinski and said he would be a solid Reed, so I want to explain myself a little further. Why do I not think he works? But hold my horses. I just said I liked this Reed. Yes, this Reed. Only this Reed. But if we are getting our own Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I hope we see this character's beginnings, Mr. Fantastic's origin. And if that is the case, our Reed needs to be way more of a mess. So I've broken down what I don't think works about John Krasinski's Mr. Fantastic into 2 parts. Number 1, the look. I do not blame anyone for this, besides Russell Donnerman. In War of the Realms 3, Donnerman drew Reed Richards like this, which was a bit of a departure. Reed Richards usually looks just like an average white guy. Not too many defining traits, but the nose and the eyes and the beard, that was Krasinski. Also, don't get me wrong, Russell, I love your work. The Marauders 20 and Giant Size Jean and Emma covers are so good. I've referenced your X-Men covers a ton because in my mind, they are the definitive versions of the characters and the costume variants are all great. But I remember seeing posts online at the time saying, hey, John Krasinski looks a lot like Reed Richards and he has a wife in real life and she looks enough like Sue Storm. They are perfect for those parts. It's settled. And yes, Emily Blunt could totally do it, but here's the thing. Reed Richards is a scientist. He is a nerd, a bookworm. John Krasinski is not that. I don't think he ever was, but he certainly is not now. I mean, the man was on the short list to play Captain America, and he's only gotten hunkier since. Reed Richards is not a hunk. He can have abs and be in shape. He can even be attractive, but not a hunk. Case in point, Jack Ryan, episode 1, and this is before he turns into Super Action Man. This character, just normal CIA analyst, is very believably flirting up a storm. He's charming, he's handsome, a Chad, if you will, and that just isn't Reed. Now, I'm not saying that I definitely do not think Krasinski is capable of playing dorky, but I haven't seen it. For the last decade, Krasinski's really only played cool guys or good dads, never nerds. Every Krasinski character comes with the understanding that, yeah, this guy played football in high school. Nothing against that, but if I am expected to believe he would do a good job playing the world's biggest nerd, it would help if he had ever played a version of that character before. And this kind of dovetails into my second issue, the attitude. To me, John Krasinski's defining trait is that he is nice, inoffensive, a good old American boy, and Reed Richards is not that. He's not a bad guy, although he can be in alternate universes, but Reed just can't help himself. Reed Richards is kind of arrogant. He knows he's the smartest man on earth, so a lot of the time he's not really concerned with being nice. He rubs people the wrong way, unintentionally. He's stubborn, sort of like Doctor Strange. Now, over time, Reed grows, develops better people skills, becomes more empathetic. This largely comes from his family, the Fantastic Four. They ground Reed, and eventually he becomes the Reed Richards we saw in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, the family man. But we are not there yet, and in my opinion, it would be a real disservice to the character if we didn't give him that arc. And say what you will about the movies they're in, I think Ioan Gruffudd and Miles Teller do a great job at this. And I mean, look at like Doctor Strange, where he has gone in 6 movies. He is still the best sorcerer on Earth, but he has been humbled, and now Stephen is a good friend and a mentor to people he would otherwise have ignored. And I'm not saying I don't think Krasinski could do that, but again, I haven't seen it, really ever. So I would not be willing to bet the franchise on it. The other thing I'm missing is the ability to be wrong. Like, again, I've not seen everything he's done, but I definitely would not say Krasinski is known for playing flawed characters. I mean, seriously, this Jack Ryan pilot is sort of incredible considering how much it avoids giving Jack Ryan one flaw. Like, think about great TV, Mad Men, Breaking Bad, Severance. I cannot recommend Severance enough. Watch it. Your first episode, or pilot, needs to give your protagonist something to work on, some sort of internal conflict, anything. But no, Jack Ryan is a very good boy who loves America and the CIA and does not do bad things. And if you're currently typing in the comments, well, actually later in season 1, we learn he's very cowardly, or he doesn't tip well, or he can't jump rope. Well, that's wonderful, but that's the kind of thing that's supposed to go in the pilot. But no, he's basically great at everything, and he always does the right thing. And the same can be said for A Quiet Place and The Office, probably that Benghazi movie. It sort of feels like John Krasinski specifically plays characters who are good, nice boys. I don't know if this is because of his agent or the roles he chooses or the fact that he writes some of the movies he's in, but we need a Reed whose own curiosity is the cause of a lot of his problems. He opens a portal that everyone told him not to open, and it backfires. But Reed believes in science and exploration in a very noble way. He cannot let things like that go unexamined, so he breaks the rules, he messes up. I'm not looking for a bad guy, but someone with a devil on his shoulder, telling him not to listen to everybody and do the dangerous thing. Reed is not always lovable or likable. He is a scientist. He experiments, makes mistakes, and learns, and eventually he does the right thing, but more often than not, Reed should fail. That's why Multiverse of Madness Reed is really the only one I believe Krasinski could play. He's the one who already had the flaws, the chips on his shoulder, the relationships he ruined, but those are better now. He's a good boy who is nice to Wanda. All I'm saying is, I hate John Krasinski and think he should go to jail. No, he's fine, but he is certainly not my Reed. And I'm not convinced he's going to be the Reed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward. I could absolutely see this as a one and done. After all, every other variant does not necessarily look like the original. The Spider-Men are all different. The Lokis are different. I really doubt that when the MCU brings in the linchpin of the X-Men, Professor X, they're going to hire an actor in his late 80s. So there's no reason to assume this is 100% locked in. Marvel, in the immortal words of Sam Wilson,
I believe we can do better.
And if you want to see who I would prefer as Reed, that video is out there. Go watch it now. Then check out my Casting the X-Men series, which includes an exclusive video where I cast some obscure but beloved X-Men, and you can only watch that on Nebula. Nebula is my baby. It is a streaming service that I and a bunch of other cool YouTubers who you definitely like got together and made. So we could make videos that defy the algorithm, but we know you guys want to see. Like, I'm working on a Wolverine casting video, and that's gonna be great. It's going very well. But if I wanted to make another video casting, say, Wolverine's extended family, that would certainly end up on Nebula, and it will, because I'm making that video. You can watch my videos there ad-free. It is wonderful. And we have partnered with this video sponsor, CuriosityStream, on a bundle that gets you a year of Nebula, along with CuriosityStream for less than $15 a year. That's like a little more than $1 a month. It's a rock solid deal. And you get to watch all of CuriosityStream's wonderful documentaries about things like Muhammad Ali. Speaking of comic book characters, he fought Superman that one time. I just watched this one, The Trials of Muhammad Ali. Super interesting story about Ali being a conscientious objector during the Vietnam War. So, to get CuriosityStream and Nebula, go to curiositystream.com/Nando. Thank you to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon, everybody who listens to my podcast, mostly Nitpicking, everybody who subscribes to Nebula, and everyone who follows me on Twitter. I'm at NandoVMovies. That's all I got. Stay safe.